I would choose pneumatics. They are superior in every way. Let's talk nail guns, cordless versus pneumatic. I'm Ron Paulk and this is My Smart Wood Shop. If you want to get a detailed set of plans to build a smart bench, a smart station, any of the accessories that work with the smart system or the smart wood shop itself, you'll find a link in the description of this video. If I could only have one cordless gun, it would be this one, and that is primarily because of hanging doors. Other than that, I would choose pneumatics for any other nailing situation. They are superior in every way. They cost a lot less to purchase. They last longer. You can repair them yourself. This gun and this gun shoot the same nail. This gun is half the weight of this gun. Working all day in production, you're gonna know you are carrying this gun around. This one, even with the air hose hanging off of it, it is a joy. I mean, the difference is monumental. This is not my first cordless nail gun. I have had pass load. I have had DeWalt, two of them, although I bought one and didn't like how it worked. It was a finished gun. It was this gun. And I returned it and got another one thinking I just had a bad copy. But it had this sort of spring battery. I don't really know. It's kind of whines and shoots. And it was, it just didn't feel right. It didn't shoot right. And it didn't set the nail consistently. Then I bought the Senko version. This is years ago, by the way. So the new DeWalt could be better. Senko had a very similar one to that DeWalt. So I bought that one when I took the DeWalt back. It was like having the same gun. It was just a different color. I returned it. Shortly after that, Senko came out with a fusion gun. And I thought I'd give it a try. And it was a gun with an air tank instead of the coil spring. And wonderful gun. I liked it. The battery on it was really expensive. I didn't have any other batteries in that system. And the battery died shortly within the first year. I went to try to replace it. I couldn't get any deals. And so I ended up being frustrated with the overall experience. And I had a carpenter buddy friend that used the same system, but he had more Senko stuff. So I gave him that gun. And later on, I got the Makita version of the 18 and the 15. They were much larger. They were okay, but they just, again, unsatisfactory. I'll take the air hose in this over those. Spring forward to now, because I just got this, there was a reviewer on YouTube that did every brand you can think of through extensive, he had a shop with guys and they did every test you could think of. And you know, they had pass load and they had Makita and they had the Milwaukee and they had DeWalt and they had Senko. They had them all. And they went through all of these different tests. And their conclusion at the end was overall, in the guns that I was looking at, which is this one, and then also the 18 gauge, that it performed overall the best, but primarily where it did better than all the others was consistently setting the nail to the same depth, irrelevant of the material, which was critical for me in finish. So I bought this gun based on that. I have not used it in the field, but I have done extensive testing with it because I was going to return it. I didn't want to wait 3 or 4 months and find out that I didn't like how it was functioning. So I like this gun, and I think I'm going to get the 18 gauge, but not as my primary 18 gauge shooter. The thing about the 18 gauge, things really start to get kind of interesting. This is a Hitachi. This is my primary finish gun, and it has to shoot a 2-inch nail. I've got shorter nails that I'll put in here and there, and I've got some guns that will shoot this nail shorter. If I could only have one finished gun, it would be this one. Milwaukee that I'm looking at is the same size as this gun and about the same weight. So we're now looking at this all day long versus this all day long. Again, if you're in production, if you're running on the job to do some pickup work, you just got a few things to do, then fine. Or like I said, hanging doors, I think that I would go all day with this one. Running around nailing off base, nailing off casing, nailing off windows, the ergonomics, they're not even in the same stratosphere. I have the stapler, which is about the same size. Doesn't get as much use, but that's handy. And then let's talk about the 23 gauge. So this is a 23 gauge nail gun. Also gets a lot of use. This are those beautiful, almost nothing 23 gauge, about a 2-inch. I have looked at the 23 gauge nailers from the different companies in Cordless, and yeah, the bottom line is that running an air hose off of this, it's just, there's just no comparison. And as we're adding these guns up and looking at the different guns, realize that this 18 gauge 2-inch nailer from Hitachi, you can run to Lowe's and pick this up for less than $100. In fact, I'm pretty sure I saw it on sale in its new brand for $49. That's half the price of a battery for one of these. So it really starts to add up if you're in production and you do lots of different kinds of finish carpentry. You're going to need different guns. So I have, this is a Cinco. This one also shoots a 23, but it's a shorter 23. But it's a nail that I use occasionally. Almost every pneumatic gun is cheaper than the battery for the cordless version. Here we have another little Hitachi that shoots a 23 gauge. Then this one is a stapler. It's a special staple. It's actually a furniture upholstery gun. It shoots a really wide staple that's a really small gauge, and I can get even shorter ones. And I use this one when I have a wainscoting job and doing paneling around a room, and I'm doing a lot of 1/4-inch ply that's part of the recessed panel. This nail I use extensively. I can't find anything that holds better. Another stapler, this one's quite old, and this is back when Cinco was kind of the only one we bought, and a little gun like this would have been about $300. But it's still going strong 30 years after I bought it. You can see that little narrow crown, but same small gauge as the other one. And actually I did a lot of the wainscoting and stuff with this one, but when I got a hold of this one, it holds a lot better being a wider crown. And so there's some finished guns. This one is not finished. This one is a Tico nailer. So when I'm framing, doing all the hardware you have to do anymore with wood framing, this shoots those Tico nails as opposed to hand driving them in or rattling away with one of these for a couple of decades. This is another finished gun here. This is the same as this one, the 15 gauge. And this one is kind of a crossover. This is a big heavy stapler. I use this more in framing, but I'll use this when I'm doing window liners. And so I've got my sides and my top and the bottom and the top are nailed into the sides. And I find that this particular staple does the best. I don't want to use a nail in that situation, and I don't want to use the smaller, lighter stapler. So this 7/16 crown heavy staple is my go-to for that. This is my big framer. This is for dimensional lumber, nailing walls together and such. This is a coil nailer. I did stick nailers. I started with a massively heavy Senko way back, and then the Hitachis came around and they were much lighter, even though it was my big stick nailer that I used forever. But I switched over to coils with my framing, because with the sticks you're always putting quite a few runs in your bag. They get heavy, they break apart. Whereas with the coils, I'm getting a few hundred nails in a coil, so I can just set a couple coils out and I can just shoot. Because you know, in framing, you're running through a lot of nails. You're bump firing. You're just putting your finger on the trigger and going bam, bam, bam. And that's even more true with this coil nailer. This one is for framing, but I use this one. This one shoots up to a 2.5 nail. This is for sheeting, so sidewall sheeting, roof sheeting. You've got all your shear nailing to do, so you've got a lot of nailing. You've got a nailing schedule, so it might be 6-inch centers, might be 8-inch centers, depending on what the engineering is. And you can't set the head of the nail through the sheeting. It has to be flush, and that's inspected. You have to get a shear nail inspection. And I'm telling you, when you're going through that many nails, and I used to use the same stick nailer, and I'd just have shorter nails, and I'd put them in. Being up on the roof and having all those in my nail bags, and it's in the Pacific Northwest, a lot of rain, so I've got the fingerless gloves on, rolling nail. Yeah, just the coils were way more efficient for me. And again, even up on the roof, I could take a few coils and just set them on the deck, and they stayed up there, and I could just grab and reload. And then a roofing nailer. This is I don't do a lot of roofing, but this is a roofing nail, and there's a lot of uses for this big-headed nail, for even installing windows and the flanges. And also, all you got to be careful though, like with the vinyls, you don't want to do it because it might break your vinyl. But also for flashings and details like that, where you want that wider nail. There's a lot of stuff that nail. So every nail gun I have here, I use, some more than others. Most of these they don't even make in cordless, and if they did, you know, you're not going to get a nice little stapler like this in cordless anywhere near that size. With the technology that exists today, I do not see a way that you can make a cordless gun with the tanks so they work well down into this size. And if anybody wants to point out that Milwaukee has a much smaller 18 gauge nailer, you're right. And I got excited about it. I was actually going to get that one. It was a little less money. Two things. One, it was a different battery. It's a small, the M12, which would have meant I would have had to add another charger, another battery system. I don't use the Milwaukee M18. I have an adapter, and I use my DeWalt battery. So I am all DeWalt battery for my cordless tools or Fest tools. So I have two battery systems, and I don't want any others. The other problem with that gun, and the biggest problem, the reason I would not buy it, it shoots a shorter nail. It doesn't shoot a 2-inch nail. So I would only be interested in the 2-inch nail version, and it's the size of this gun. I know there's a lot of guys that are cordless, and all the more power to you, but cordless can't do this. And my compressor, it's a big one. It'll run quite a few framing guns at once, and it never comes out of the smart wood shop. That's its permanent home. There's a hole drilled in the floor where I bleed off the tanks. I got a hose running out through the bottom of the trailer. So I bleed the water off there. There's another hose that I've got a big supply on a reel that goes out. So I pull that onto the job. I'm always going to have air. Air to run nail guns. Air to have air blowers to clean up tools inside of tools. Filling up tires. There's just, even some of my air tools, that are, you know, like wrenches and stuff. Those are pretty inexpensive compared to getting the cordless version, and a lot of those are smaller, the little nibblers and things. So air has a lot of purpose. I'm always going to have air, and the guns are cheaper, they're more nimble, they last longer. Cordless is wonderful, it has a niche, but it isn't going to replace pneumatics with the current technology. And as I make this argument for pneumatics over cordless in the nail guns, I am a cordless first guy everywhere else if possible. When it comes to my power tools, my framing saws, Sawzall, my big 1/2-inch hole hog, my little portable vacuum, my smaller skill, as many routers as I can get, my grinder, my Festool sander. I have every possible tool is cordless, with few exceptions that it's just not an option. So I do like batteries, and I like cordless, and they're getting better and better and better. Again, I just don't see how the size and weight of the technology can compare to the size and nimble and durability and cost of pneumatics when it comes to air guns. If you have a different opinion, then share it down below. I'm sure there are some excellent production carpenters that have gone all cordless with their nail guns and have a great argument for it. So let us know so that we can share this information in a rational, calm, sensible way for those that are seeking answers. This is my answer. What's yours? Mahalo for hanging out with me in the Smart Wood Shop.